Good family. Chief John's live. Peace and blessings. Chief John's live. Today, the 6th of September 2019. Exactly a month ago, I reported that Mr. or former president of Zimbabwe, one of our greatest African leaders, the true African leader, Robert Mugabe, was hospitalized in Singapore, and exactly a month ago today, sadly, it's reported all over the news that beloved Robert Mugabe has passed away. It's a very sad day. It's I'll say it's tragic. Tragic because we've lost a great leader. Someone who had great intentions for the continent, Mother Africa, and it's really sad to see him leave, even though he lived a fulfilling life. Died at the age of 95. So despite whatever is happening, all the tensions on the continent due to the xenophobic, attacks in South Africa, which a lot of people are still not sure what exactly it is. People are still divided whether it's xenophobia or self-hate or whatever. I mean, I say call a spade and a shovel. It is xenophobia. Okay, it's not only hatred on fellow Africans, but it's also on foreign nationals. So I mean, it is what it is. But if Mugabe were to be alive, in his best health, I wonder what he would be saying. But I do have some articles to share, and yeah, it's really sad and tragic in the events of all the commotion happening on the continent. I feel very troubled that we've lost one of our greatest leaders on the continent, a real Pan-Africanist, Mr. Robert Mugabe. Uh, yeah. So I do have, we I remember Mr. Robert Mugabe, a few years back, I think in the late 90s, one of his famous quotes, uh, Britain, or what, Tony Blair, take your Britain, I Mugabe, I take my Zimbabwe. I remember that very well as a young kid. I was listening to that. It was all over, one of the true African leaders, a warrior, that this is what African leaders are, not the ones we have today that are bowing down to foreigners, bowing down to Europeans, and bowing down to our colonizers. You don't see that in Mugabe, and that's one of our greatest leaders ever. All right, ever. So Mr. Robert Mugabe will forever be in my memory as the true embodiment of Black Power. No matter how things might be difficult, we should go down as owning our own stuff, and there's pride in it. There's so much pride, you know. Even if we fail, we own our own shit, not the bootlickers and those that kowtow to foreign powers. Mugabe was not that kind of person, and that's what we like. Okay, so I'm going to share some articles about Mugabe, read a little bit of history about him from Wikipedia, and yeah. So peace and love to the family. Nalana, thanks for joining the stream. How's it going in Azerbaijan? Glad to have you here. Chaotic Storm, peace family, peace. The doves are flying. Ryan Names, my president just died, man. Oh damn, that's right. The true president of Africa. B and T Life Lane. May his soul rest in peace. exactly. I would say, may his soul rest in power. Okay, may his soul rest in power, and let his spirit inspire all the future generation of Africans to do better, right? To do better in the current leaders of Africa, not to bow down to Europeans, right? Okay, boom, Black Power. So thank you all for joining me. I am very, very disheartened. My heart is very heavy. Uh, you know, whatever is happening on the continent now, is very, very tragic. Adding on top of that is the death of Mr. Robert Mugabe, and it's very, very sad. So without much ado, I am going to read a little bit about the history of Mugabe. Uh, yep. So let me see if I can share this. Okay. So uh, let's see. So I'm gonna go into Wikipedia for a short history about Mr. So yeah, peace and love to the people of Zimbabwe. I hope this unites you. You should know that death awaits us all. Okay, nobody is invincible. We shall all die someday. Okay, so it's better to die fighting for something greater, okay, than being a bitch. All right. So yeah, Mr. Robert Mugabe wasn't a bitch. He wasn't one of those. Okay, he was a true black power. Okay, this is what it is, right? Terrible human to his own people. Okay, so you can say that seventh estate, but we're very proud of Robert Mugabe for fighting for independence for Zimbabwe. Even though in his latter years things didn't go too well, but I wouldn't define him as that. Okay, I'll define him as a true liberator. Okay, a true liberator. So yeah, we all know definitely power always corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay, it's all the level of education. Okay, the level of education. We currently have presidents like these. What is his name? Paul Kagame, the champion of the African free trade, the champion of the African Union. Uh, you know, he's done so much to unite Rwanda and rebuild Rwanda, but yet he's changed the constitution, which will allow him to sit in power till eternity, till the day he dies. Okay, but we know that power can corrupt. Kagame at any time, but currently, okay, he's doing a great thing. So let us define our greatest leaders by the good deeds. Okay, by the good deeds. The best he could have done, he did for Africa. The best he did for his country, his people, was to gain independence for his people. So there we have it, right? So without much ado, I am going to read about Mr. Robert Mugabe. Okay. Uh, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, okay, born 21st of February 1924. He died on the 6th of September 2019, which is today. Was a Zimbabwean revolutionary and politician who served as Prime Minister of Zimbabwe from 1980 to 1987, and then as president from 1987 to 2017. He chaired the Zimbabwean African National Union Nationalists during the 1970s and 80s. He identified as a Marxist or Leninist, and he self-identified as a socialist after the 1990s. His policies now, democracy in Africa is not the same as democracy in the West. Okay, we Africans are yet to understand what democracy is, but what we meant to do is follow our own system of governance. Okay, and the European system of governance doesn't work. Okay, prisons and capital punishments and stuff like that didn't really exist in Africa. Okay, it's all Europeans. I mean, Africa, all the laws that Europeans have written, okay, never, half of them never existed in Africa because we were governed by certain principles of nature, right? And you can see it evidently written on the wall in Egypt. Okay, it's called Mayat. Okay, this is what Africans are governed by. Okay, and democracy was forced upon us by Europeans, and evidently it's not working in Africa, right? See the state of affairs in South Africa. Okay, it's not working. So Marxism, and I don't really necessarily see it as a negative thing, but the best form of governance for Africa is socialism, right? Because this is what we are as natural Africans. We are communal type of people, and this is how we need to govern ourselves. So do not take this as a negative about how Mugabe decided to rule this country. But whatever it did, it was successful. Okay. He self-identified as a socialist after the 1990s. Nkrumah was a socialist as well. His policies have been described as Mugabeism. Okay, I do not know about that, but Mugabe was born a poor Shona to a poor Shona family in Kutama. From what I understand, Shona is not it's not like a tribal or ethnic group. Shona is a language, and anybody who speaks the language is considered as Shona. But yeah, I'll go on. So Mugabe was born to a Shona family in Kutama, southern Rhodesia, following an education at Kutama College and the University of Fort Hare. He worked as a school teacher in southern Rhodesia, northern Rhodesia, and Ghana. So yeah, Mugabe is dear to our heart, as people from Ghana. I think he taught in University of Ghana. So angered that southern Rhodesia was a colony of the British Empire governed by its white minority, Mugabe embraced Marxism and joined African nationalists protests calling for an independent state led by representatives to Mozambique. Established his leadership of ZANU and oversaw ZANU's role in Rhodesian Bush War, which is a war fought against colonialism and white Zimbabweans to gain independence, right? So fighting Ian Smith's predominantly white agreement ended the war and resulted in 1980 general election. So this is when Africans actually fought. Okay, this is Africans in the past were warriors. Okay, we fought the Europeans and we beat them. Okay, this is the story of Zimbabwe. They actually beat the European to the war, and South Africans should learn from this. Okay, you are 90% of the population. There's no reason why 10% of the population or less should dominate you. Okay, and to the point where they can actually control you by dividing you and ruling you. Okay, it's stupidity at this point into the 2019. Okay, mental slavery at best, right? He reluctantly took part in the peace negotiations brokered by the United Kingdom that resulted in Lancaster House Agreement. Okay, the government ended the war and resulted in 1980 general election at which Mugabe led ZANU PF to victory as prime minister of the newly renamed Zimbabwe. Mugabe's administration expanded healthcare and education. Now, if you know the strategy of Ghana, okay, Ghana might be doing poorly infrastructure-wise. Okay, economic. I think Ghana is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, actually. Despite the mismanagement of national resources and stuff like that. Apparently, $10 million of oil revenue is missing currently in Ghana due to corruption and stuff like that. Ghana produces very, very high level students, very, very intelligent students, and similar can be said about Zimbabwe. Okay, Australia has a large Zimbabwean population, and they all, like every Zimbabwean, meet. Okay, I met a whole bunch of them whilst I was taking my bachelor's of civil engineering. A whole lot of Zimbabweans were enrolled. Okay, so Zimbabweans pride on education. Okay, and I commend them for that. So coming back to the article, Mugabe's administration expanded healthcare and education, and despite his professed Marxist desire for a socialist society, adhered largely to mainstream conservative economic policies. Okay. Mugabe's call for racial reconciliation failed to stem growing white immigration, while relations with Joshua Nkono's Zimbabwean African People's Unions, ZAPU, also declined. In the Gukurahundi of 1982 to 1985, Mugabe's 5th Brigade crushed ZAPU-linked opposition in Matabeleland in a campaign that killed at least 10,000 people. So that's tragedy, right? Mostly in Ndebele's civilians, international. I'll take that again. Mostly in Ndebele civilians. Okay, so this is very tragic. Okay, and this is atrocious. So again, I say that power corrupts and absolute power corrupt. All right. So and then in war, okay, nobody wins. Okay. Internationally, he sent troops into the Second Congo War and chaired a aligned movement of 1986 to 1989, the Organization of African Unity, 1997 to 1998, and the African Union, 2015 to 2016. Pursuing decolonization, Mugabe emphasized the redistribution of land. Okay, this is one African president who was able to do that. Controlled by white farmers to landless blacks. Okay, initially on a willing seller, willing buyer basis. Frustrated at the slow rate of redistribution from 2000, he encouraged black Zimbabweans, native Zimbabweans, I'll say, to violently seize white-owned farms. Okay, I'm not too sure about that. Okay, but I don't condone violence in any form. Okay, so yeah, food production was severely impacted, leading to famine, drastic economic deadline, and international sanctions. Opposition to Mugabe grew, but he was re-elected in 2002 to 2008 and 2013 through campaigns dominated by violence, electoral fraud, and nationalistic appeals to his rural Shona voter base. In 2017, members of his own party ousted him in a coup, okay, which we remember very well. It was televised live, okay, replacing him with former Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa. Okay, so that's him. Sorry, I butchered his name. Having dominated Zimbabwe's politics for nearly 4 decades. Okay, so I think he was in power for 38 years. Mugabe was a controversial figure. He was praised as a revolutionary hero of the African liberation struggle, who helped free Zimbabwe from British colonialism, imperialism, and white minority rule. Okay, so this is what we need to remember former President Mugabe for. Okay, this is what we need to remember him for as a warrior, right? Okay, this is what it is. Okay, he's a captain that sank with his ship. Okay, this is Black Power. Okay, this is what we need to remember him for, right? Critics accuse Mugabe of being a dictator responsible for economic mismanagement, widespread corruption, anti-white racism, human rights abuses, and crimes against humanity, which I denounce. Okay, I'm not in favor of any of those. All right, so how are you all going in the chat? Okay, a lot of people are going to be hurt by this, but I don't care what you think. Okay, we need a Black Power African leader. Okay, not an African leader that'll bow down to Europeans. Okay, so Mugabe will go down in my books as one of the greatest. Okay, Africa's greatest. All right, boom. Okay, so yeah, may Mugabe rest in power. Okay, Paul Kagame. Let's see, Chaotic Storm. Our dead are never dead to us. That's it. Okay, our ancestors are never dead. They live in us. Okay, our ancestors always live in us until we have forgotten them. Okay, yeah, we will never forget them, family. Paul Kagame said, "We will fix our own problems, even the ones we created for us." Exactly. All right. One Seventh Estate, one leader. Seventh Estate, whilst you're at it, okay, like the stream, all right? Like the stream, okay? And subscribe, all right, please. One leader went on to be a unique and amazing leader with no selfish founding father self-entitlement. Another one went to run a nation like his family business, full of greed and a heart worse than white. Okay, okay. So let us not describe Mugabe about what he tend to be, but let us describe Mugabe for what he initially started. Okay, we all know that anybody who is been in power for that long will ultimately get corrupted. Okay, will ultimately get corrupted. Uh, it is sad that a lot of African leaders think that they're kings, okay, or pharaohs, and they needed to be in power until the day they die. So this is what corrupts. Okay, sadly, Nkrumah started off really well. Okay, and he declared himself, president for life, and that really wasn't appealing to international eyes and ears. So they decided to take him down. So you can see this happening on the continent. But yeah, we can see the trajectory for Paul Kagame, but I hope that he doesn't tend to be someone like that. Okay, so we want to embrace democracy, but we want to have an African twist to it. Okay, Africa for Africans. That's it. All right, so yeah, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like the stream. Nirlana, thank you so much. Thumbs it up. Okay, rest in power. Okay, salam, hello, salam. Salam alaikum. Okay. Jazalak khair. All right. So I do have some articles from GhanaWeb.com. Ghana was one of the countries to issue statements, and a lot of Ghanaians will remember Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe for being there. A lot of Ghanaians were probably taught in the universities by Mugabe. So yeah, he is a true inspirational leader at his prime. Okay, to a lot of African people. But I'm proud for him championing the unification of the entire continent of Africa. Okay. All right. So I'll jump on to the next next article. All right. So yeah, let's get it. So my next article is going to be from my next article is going to be from GhanaWeb.com. Okay, it's a short article here. So yeah, Zimbabwe ex-president Robert Mugabe dies aged 95. Some people are saying 93. I'm not really sure what his age is. Okay, but according to Wiki, he died in 1924. I mean, he was born in 1924, which would make him 93 years old. So let's get this. So GhanaWeb.com says, so GhanaWeb.com says Zimbabwe. So article General News, Friday, the 6th of September 2019. Zimbabwe ex-president Robert Mugabe dies aged 95. So information gathered from BBC.com this morning has it that the ex-president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, is dead. This was seen when Zimbabwe's education secretary, Rajayi Harry, tweeted, "Rest in peace, Robert Mugabe." So yeah, rest in power, I would say. Robert Mugabe is the longest serving president of Zimbabwe, who served from 1980 till he was ousted in 2017. The first wife of Robert Mugabe was a Ghanaian by the name Sally Mugabe. So there we go. So yeah, you see the deep relationship between Zimbabwe and Ghana. Okay, so yeah, Mugabe, who was the first, I take that again. The first wife of Robert Mugabe was a Ghanaian by the name Sally Mugabe, who was the first lady of Zimbabwe from 1987 until her death in 1992. So this is what Pan-Africanism is, all right? Pan-Africanism is, like I said, okay, I want a wife from every country in Africa, right? This is me, Okay, and this is my desire, right? So, and this is my Pan-Africanism. So the background of Robert Mugabe, okay, and saying this, okay, Mugabe has some very interesting quotes about women. Okay, so later on I'll get into some of the quotes of Robert Mugabe, and we should celebrate his good deeds than his latter deeds, right? So background: Robert Mugabe was born on February 2001. Sorry, I take that again. Robert Mugabe was born on February 21st, 1924 in Kutama, southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. In 1963, he founded the ZANU resistance movement against British colonial rule. Mugabe became prime minister of the new Republic of Zimbabwe after British rule ended in 1980, and he assumed the role of president 7 years later. Mugabe retained a strong grip on power through controversial elections until he was forced to resign in November 2017. Okay, so this is a nice way to put it, but he was actually ousted by a peaceful coup d'etat at the age of 93. Right. Younger years, so there's a contradiction here. It says 95, but then it says here 93. So yeah, bear in mind, could be typos. Younger years and education. Robert Gabriel Mugabe was born on February 21st, 1924, in Katana. Okay. Southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, just months after the Southern Rhodesia became a British Crown colony. As a result, the people of his village were oppressed by the new laws and faced limitations to their education and job opportunities. So one of the strategies of white supremacy is to keep you dumb and uneducated. You can see that a whole bunch of these African leaders at the time who were actually very educated, i.e., your Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Okay, he got a scholarship, and so white supremacy is not very smart. If you were that smart, you were not going to give a scholarship to Nkrumah, who ultimately outsmarted the British. He was very intelligent, to the point where he was going to actually form a United States of Africa until he was, attempted coup d'etat. Several assassination attempts were made on Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to the point where people suggested that he was using black magic, as he was able to survive a whole lot of the suicide attacks, made upon Nkrumah, or Nkrumah's life, until eventually he was ousted whilst he was out of the country. Okay, and he died in exile. Okay, so this is the extent of what white supremacy does. Okay, and the ultimate weapon of white supremacy is mind control. Okay, dumb you down, deprive you of education, as South Africa is 90% of the population is uneducated. Okay, so they cannot really articulate anything and put reason to anything, critical thinking to anything, and this is what's leading to the chaos in Africa. So we need to pride on education as African people, do our best to educate ourselves. And in 2019, with social media and the internet, you shouldn't be in the dark. Okay, so yeah. So as a result, the people of his village were oppressed by new laws and faced limitations to their education and job opportunities. So yeah. Mugabe's father was a carpenter. He went to work for a Jesuit mission in South Africa when Mugabe was just a boy and mysteriously never came home. Mugabe's mother, a teacher, was left to bring up Mugabe and his three siblings on her own. So I mean, this is really sad. So Mugabe's father mysteriously never came home. So apparently, obviously he was murdered. As a child, Mugabe helped out by tending the family's cows and making money through odd jobs. Okay. Although many people in southern Rhodesia went only as far as grammar school, Mugabe was fortunate enough to receive a good education. He attended school at the local Jesuit mission under the supervision of school director Father O'Hare. a powerful influence on the boy. Ohia taught Mugabe that all people should be treated equally, and educated to the fulfillment of their abilities. Mugabe's teachers, who called him a clever lad, were early to recognize his abilities as considerable. The values that Ohia imparted to his students resonated with Mugabe, prompting him to pass them on by becoming a teacher himself. Over the course of 9 years, he studied privately while teaching at a number of mission schools in southern Rhodesia. Mugabe continued his education at the University of Harry in South Africa. Fort Harry or Fort Hare? I'm not too sure of the spelling, pronunciation. Graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree in History and English in 1951. Mugabe then returned to his hometown to teach there. By 1953, he had earned his Bachelor of Education degree through correspondence courses. So that was it. So the videos about him. Mugabe resigns, activist breaks down in tears. So yeah, that was Ghana News, GhanaWeb.com. Okay, now let's have a look at the chat. Let's have a look at the chat here. Let's have a look at the chat. So yeah. So yeah, Chaotic Storm says we judge our leaders by their character and their result for the nation. Right. So if you want to judge the character and the result for the nation, with Mugabe is a double-edged sword, really. Basically, because he led the country to freedom, and then he mismanaged the country. Basically, his due to age, and there were people in the cabinet that protected him. So he should have had some good advisors and people that would advise him to step down. But there were actually it's all corruption. Okay, it's a corruption in Africa, which a lot of people are not, really keen to deal. The corruption, the level of corruption is crazy in Africa. So and like I said, corruption is not only in terms of finances or mismanagement of finances. It could be in many forms. Like I said, you could be corrupt by your own ego. You could be corrupt by your own, even your own, level of education. You could be corrupt in so many ways. Okay, and Mugabe was corrupted in so many ways. You could be corrupted by women. You could be corrupted by anything, really. So, my ultimate form of corruption, I would say, is power, because power is the ultimate form of ultimate thing that corrupts any human being. No matter how good you are, if you rise to power, you will be corrupted. Okay. If you especially if you deal with it for too long. That's why there's term limitations to 4 terms in most democratic countries, because any leader serving a position of power for longer than 10 years will ultimately get corrupted, right? To the point where they would feel like they are predestined to rule forever, and bad advice and stuff like that could quickly deteriorate situations. So yeah, again, I'll take your quote for it. It's true. Okay, we judge our leaders by their character and their results for the nation. So yeah, if you think Mugabe was a great leader, Chaotic Storm, on a scale of 9 to 10, okay, nay or yay, let me know. Right. So Mugabe BT, okay. Mugabe died with a bad reputation and shame. This is what African leaders don't understand. Holding on to power at the expense of your people never gives you a good legacy. That's right. So in the long run, I keep saying this, okay. In the long run, okay, anybody who stays in power for that long, 38 years, will ultimately get corrupted. Look how what's his name? Another great leader who died sadly in a tragic way, Muammar Gaddafi. Okay, all of them had good intentions in the earlier stages, but as they stayed for too long, they get corrupted, right? Again, BT, very shameful what is happening in South Africa. They should stop blaming foreigners and white people. Instead, South Africans must focus on their fault and weakness. Exactly, and that's what I say, right? So, yeah. Emmanuel Chanda, rest in peace, man of wisdom. Okay, cool. Thank you. I've been seeing you around, brother Emmanuel. Please, if you're new, please subscribe. Okay. So yeah, I have another article from africannews.com, and I'll read that as well. Right. And like the stream. Okay, like the stream. Please. So. Let's see here. Share screen. So there's an article from africannews.com. Okay. So I have shared that. Right. I do need to turn on the light for a minute. It's getting dark in my room. Let's see. Right. Here we go. So africannews.com says that Zimbabwe's ex-president Robert Mugabe dies in Singapore. President. So that this is from the president of Zimbabwe, MSM Mnangagwa. So there's breaking news an hour ago when I looked at it, right? So Zimbabwe's former president Robert Mugabe has died at age 95. The country's president MSN Mnangagwa said, "Oh, sound ignorant." Mnangagwa, okay, said on his official Twitter account. So I do not see the love affair with Twitter, man. Anyway, Mugabe died in Singapore, where he has often received medical treatment in recent years. A source with direct knowledge of the matter told Reuters. If you can see the title, okay, the title of the story, the title of my stream is actually, Africa is a cemetery. Okay. Last year, there was this news, going about social media about Putin quoting that, Africa is a cemetery, and this is a prime example of it. So even though it's disputed that Putin, quoted that, okay, it is true. Okay, it is 100% fact. Okay, that African leaders will have, educated in the West, would spend their life, in the West, do everything in the West, and when they die, they'll be buried. They'll be brought back to Africa and buried. And it's sad that, Nkrumah was one of those. It's sad that Mugabe adds to the the stereotype. So yeah, but I will not define Mr. Mugabe with that. Okay, so Mugabe died in Singapore, where he has often received medical treatment in recent years. The source with direct knowledge of the matter told Reuters. It is with utmost sadness that I announce the passing of Zimbabwe's founding father and former president, CDE. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure what that is. Robert Mugabe. A post on Mugabe's official presidential Twitter account said. So, President of Zimbabwe's office. Okay, so it is with utmost sadness, and I announce the passing on of Zimbabwe's founding father and former president, CDE Robert Mugabe. Okay, so if you know what CDE means, please put that in the chat. I'm here to learn as well. Okay. CDE, is it comrade? I'm not too sure what that is. Okay, comrade, right? Mugabe was an icon of liberation, a Pan-Africanist who dedicated his life to the emancipation and empowerment of his own people. His contribution to the history of our nation and continent will never be forgotten. Okay, this is his true legacy. Okay, this is what we need to remember him about. May his soul rest in eternal power. Okay, that's the eternal power. So that was the end of that article. Okay. Uh, yeah. So if you see my thumbnail, this is where I got it from. Okay. Shout out to African News. Yeah. So back to the chat. Let's see. Emmanuel Chanda. Let's see. Okay. Chaotic Storm. His vision was great. Okay. I respect Mugabe regardless. Okay. Respect family. I respect him regardless too. Trump wants to nuke the hurricane. Yeah. I don't know. That was a Hurricane Dorian. He wanted to nuke it. Okay. You know. You can see. It's very weird when you see the path of the Hurricane Dorian. Okay, fully decimated the Bahamas, and then when it just changed direction, and it's now just a mere breeze. You know, just now a mere breeze. To mainland United States. Okay, which makes me feel okay in the eyes of the conspiracists. Okay, it basically looks like weather manipulation. Okay, looks like manipulation, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm not a conspiracist, so I'm not gonna go there. But it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Okay, harp. We all know what harp can do, right? So Elm City, thanks for joining the stream. Okay, how's it going, sister? Just came to show some love. Got to get a thumbs up. Thank you, family. Thank you, sister. Bahamas are our African brothers and sisters, sending love to them. Yeah, you missed my last stream, BT. Okay. I urge the president of Ghana and all African presidents to, go in and assist the people of Bahamas. And yeah, they're all part of the Pan African family. Okay. All right. So peace to everyone in the chat. So yeah, I am gonna end the stream. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream with some Mugabe's quotes. Okay. And then I will actually read out Putin's quote about Africa as a cemetery again. Okay, so Africa is a cemetery. I'm gonna I'm gonna read that quote in a minute. Okay, it's not far from the truth, right? Okay. So yeah, I'll give us a stark reminder, okay, of the reality of what's happening in Africa. I'm not gonna poop the party. With all respect to Robert Mugabe and his family, but we need to face the facts. Okay, I want to use this opportunity also to face the facts. Okay, yeah. So I will actually end this stream with Robert Mugabe's quotes, but I would like to go to Putin's remarks before before I go. So let me share this. Let me share this. Okay, let me share this. So last year, okay, this article is from B Server, the Zambian. Okay, this is 2019. 30th of May. Okay, it was rereading. Okay. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Africa is a cemetery for Africans. Okay, so I'm not too sure if that's really true, but about the quote, but the quote is real. Okay, Africa will never be independent. Africans believe in Europeans, Americans, and Chinese more than themselves. They don't trust themselves at all. A white man will commit crime in Africa, but no action will be taken because Africa authorities view us as semi-gods. Not semi-gods, actually gods. There's a saying in Ghana that if you're going to church on Sunday and you see a white man, you should turn your back and go home because you've ultimately seen God. Okay, this is really, really sad. And this is not, this is not just a lie. Okay, when you step foot in Ghana, you see billboards of white Jesus everywhere. Even I had to attack my own mom for that. Okay, I had to pull down white Jesus from her bedroom wall. Okay, our family album is and photos are not on her wall, but white Jesus is on her wall. I had to pull that down and chuck it in the bin. Okay, white Jesus has no place in my house. Why? So a black man can be abducted in Europe, get harassed, or even killed, but no African authority will question. Okay, we see what's happening in the United States of unarmed black people being killed. Okay, but no African president is speaking up against that or speaking out against that. I mean, this is what it is, right? African leaders, they all puppets, right? They don't want to upset their white masters. Okay, this is what it is, right? Africans Africans present themselves as weak people with no hope, especially when dealing with Europeans and Americans. I don't think that's really true. Okay, that wasn't true in the past. Okay, but we all know that any African who stands up to the European power gets murdered anyway. So we know what's happening. It's countless number of Africans that get murdered. So not until you act like a Nelson Mandela, okay, they will kill you. They will kill you. So yeah. So I'll take that again. Africans present themselves as weak people with no hope, especially when dealing with Europeans and Americans. Okay, they are their own enemies. Okay, and I did this when Nipsey Hussle was killed. Okay, this is my title. Africans are our own worst enemies. Okay, especially what's happening in South Africa at the moment. We are our own worst enemies, right? We'll rather fight amongst ourselves than take the fight to the Europeans. And this is a recent phenomenon. Okay, and I say this is mental slavery. Okay, mental illness as well. Okay, and surely oppression makes the wise man mad. Exactly what it is. So they hate each other, and that gives their colonial masters power to continue exploiting African resources. Okay, when an African becomes rich, his bank accounts are in Switzerland. And when the late president of Nigeria, Sani Abacha, actually saved over $1 billion in international banks. Muammar Gaddafi himself as well. Who else? Mobutu Sese Seko also did that. Millions, billions, trillions of Africans' wealth is frozen in international banks. Okay, and they're not going to release these, money back to Africans. Okay, they're going to take half of it even before they release it back to Africa. So this is really sad when you look at how much accumulation, how much accumulation of interest is generated over these years in these banks. Okay, they're not going to even, give us a portion of those interests. The banks will keep it for themselves. So he invests in Germany. Okay, again, back to Putin. The African invests in Germany. He buys from Dubai. He consumes Chinese. He prays in Rome and Mecca. His children study in Europe. He travels to Canada, USA, Europe for tourism. If he dies, he will be buried in his native country of Africa. Okay, Africa is just a cemetery for Africans. How could a cemetery be developed? Putin asks. So, do you agree with President Putin? Oh, I agree 100%. I'm not right. I'm not really sure it's Putin that quoted it, but my intellectual mine is telling me that this is the voice of Africans themselves, considering this is coming from the Zambian. Okay, it's only Africans that are saying this. I haven't seen any of these on like your major outlets like um, Russian TV, even Russian television or whatever, RT news, Al Jazeera. I haven't seen any of that on Al Jazeera. I haven't seen it on BBC. I haven't seen it on CNN. I think if Putin actually said it, this wouldn't make headline news. I mean, come on. So there's no video of him actually saying it. So yeah. So what do you think? What do you guys think of that quote? What do you guys think of that quote? Okay. Chaotic Storm. I don't always believe in long-term power means a bad leadership. Okay. We can just look at the results. Okay. I think you know Mugabe's leadership has pros and cons. Okay. In the end, it was a sanctions placed on Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe didn't even have ports. Okay, Zimbabwe is landlocked, but sanctions placed on Zimbabwe actually made Zimbabwe a very very poor country. Other than that, Zimbabwe would have done very very well if it wasn't for the sanctions placed on Zimbabwe by European powers, okay, and American stuff like that, right? So we can't really blame Mugabe 100% for it. Okay, we need to blame Europeans for placing sanctions on Zimbabwe, and it is very sad that it is said that they set Zimbabwe as an example that any African country who dares to stand against European power, um, you know, white supremacy, okay, would suffer the fate of Zimbabwe. So, which has resulted in all African leaders or heads of state, okay, being bootlickers, okay, and puppets for the West, okay, bootlickers and puppets for the West, okay. This is the result of colonialism and white supremacy on the continent, right? So, BT, okay, do you think Paul Kagame will also stay in long power? I think Paul Kagame is, he is going to stay for long, because ultimately, he's in power. He's going to be in power for another 5 years. So, he's going to be ultimately in power for 20 years. Since the end of the Rwandan genocide. Okay, Paul Kagame has been in power. Okay, so it's really sad, but right now things are really great for Rwanda, and let's just hope that Paul Kagame does not step too much on the toes of these Europeans for them to justify the reason to place sanctions on um, on um, on Rwanda. And Paul Kagame has gone, the smartest route by dealing with China. Okay, so which is great. So this is why I said that China is really great for Africa for that fact. Okay, so even if you place sanctions on an African country, okay, if it's dealing with China, China will override that. All right, because China is a might. So the actions of China in Africa is a power balance. Okay, so yeah. If a good leader is in office for a long time, Chaotic Storm, if a good leader is in office for a long time and will continue to bring great benefits to one's nation, it's fine. Okay. All right. So that could be said of Paul Kagame. So currently, Paul Kagame is doing a great deed, and I applaud him. Okay. I really want to see him. I want to continue seeing Paul Kagame in power because of what he's doing, championing the African Union and championing the African free trade. Okay, Paul Kagame is the one pushing all these. So yeah, I really commend him. Paul Kagame has a zero tolerance for corruption in his country. So yeah. So the last I'm gonna limit this to 1 hour. The last 6 minutes of the stream, I'm gonna use it to read some of Mugabe's quotes. Okay. So yeah. So let's see if I can share this. Okay. I won't bother sharing this. Okay, I'll just read it. So Mugabe has countless numbers of uh, of quotes, but let's see if I can run through all of them in 6 minutes. Okay. Cooperation and respect for each other will advance the cause of human rights worldwide. Confrontation, vilification, and double standards will not. Okay, so this is uh, Robert Mugabe. Okay. Some people contriving ways and means of making us collapse. Okay, this is another quote of Mugabe, which is really true. I've just concluded since President Obama endorsed the same-sex marriage, advocates homosexual people, and enjoys an attractive countenance. Thus, if it becomes necessary, I shall travel to Washington, D.C., get down on my knee, and ask his hand. So that is Mugabe, right? Um, I am glad that Zimbabwe and China speak the same language on many issues. We share the same conviction that only a fair, just, and non prescriptive world order based on the principles of the Charter of the United Nations can deliver the development we all need. So this is why saying from Mugabe, which I champion. Okay, Africa needs to really, um, you know, value the friendship with China and make sure they are on equal, mutual level. Okay. Votes must go together with our guns. After all, any vote we shall have being a product of the gun. The gun which produces the vote should remain its security officer, its guarantor. Uh, the people's vote and people's guns are always inseparable twins. Okay, don't really agree with that. Okay, I don't really agree with that, but that's a quote from Robert Mugabe. Okay, that may a lot of people would think sounds like a dictator, right? I wish to assure that, but then again, if you stand by your sword, you die by your sword. It is what it is. Okay. If you live by your sword, you die by your sword. I wish to assure you that there can never be any return to state of armed conflict, which existed before our commitment to peace and democratic process of election under the Lancaster House Agreement. Okay. Let's see another one here. True, some land was bought by a few cabinet ministers. They bought the land. No minister, to my knowledge, acquired land which was meant for resettlement. So Robert Mugabe quotes. Zimbabwe has lots of safaris, but very few are African. Okay, most are white owned. In our region, we have the most safaris and animals. Our people cannot keep suffering. Okay, when you look at Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is so beautiful. They're blessed with even the Victoria Falls. Okay, one of the most beautiful world wonders. Okay, uh, it's amazing. In the fertile land that can grow food. Okay, there's no reason why an African should be poor. Okay, stay with us, please. Remain in this country and constitute a nation based on national unity. So this is Mugabe's words to white Zimbabweans, right? So yeah. Uh, so Black. So this is one of my famous quotes. Okay, to from Mugabe to Britain. Okay, Britain's Tony Blair, and Tony Blair, George Bush, um, the French president. They were all one group of corrupt leaders. Okay, faking a war. Okay, faking means of justifying a war in Iraq, to invade Iraq, okay, to destabilize the region, to continue raping the region, okay. Blair has to go down as one of the most disgraceful leaders George Bush as well, one of the most disgraceful leaders the world has ever seen. All right. And Mugabe was right to point fingers at them. So Blair, keep your England and let me keep my Zimbabwe. So yeah, that was made national news, world news. Okay, I have been given a list of 35 white farmers in Mashonaland, West alone. We say no to whites owning our land, and they should go. They can own companies and apartments, but not the soil. It is ours, and that message should ring loud and clear in Britain and the United States. Okay, this is Black Power right here. Okay, I don't think I did justice to that quote. Okay, I'll read it again. I have been given a list of 35 white farmers in Mashonaland West alone. We say no to whites owning our land, and they should go. They can own companies and apartments, but not the soil. It is ours, and that message should ring loud and clear in Britain and the United States. All right, all right. So another quote, countries such as the United States and Britain have taken it upon themselves to decide for us in the developing world, even to interfere in our domestic affairs and to bring about what they call regime change. So yeah, grooming a successor is it an interference? In a democratic party, you don't want leaders appointed that way. They have to be appointed properly by the people. Okay. So and that's fair and true. Okay. So again, Zimbabwe is for Zimbabweans, so it is our resources. Okay. So it should be Africa for Africans, right? In a in the event of xenophobia in South Africa, we shouldn't be nationalistics because Europeans drew all those boundaries. Okay, so yeah, people are free to campaign and they will be free to vote. There won't be any soldiers. Again, there won't be any soldiers, at the queues. Anyone who has the right to vote is free to go and cast his vote anywhere in his own area, in his own constituency, right? In most recent times, as the West started being hostile to us, we deliberately declared a look east policy. Okay, so this is where he's asking Africans to look towards China. So yeah, if the voice were made one for us to lose our sovereignty and become a member of the Commonwealth, or remain with a sovereignty and lose the membership of the Commonwealth, I would say let the Commonwealth go. Okay. Was it not enough punishment and suffering in history that we were uprooted and made helpless slaves only in new colonial outposts, but also domestically? Okay, so that's Mugabe. The land is ours, it's not European, and we have taken it. We have given it to the rightful people. Those of white extraction who happen to be in the country and are farming, welcome to do so, but they must do so on the basis of equality. Okay, but this is not what we see in South Africa. This is not what we see in South Africa. Okay, we have said the first steps. We have said the first step was to designate the land, inform the owners. We have said the first step was to designate the land, inform the owners. The second would be to get the responses from the owners, and this would be openly done. Okay, I have died many times. I have actually been Jesus Christ because he only died once. Again, I'll take that again. I have died many times. I have actually beaten Jesus Christ because I have died once. Again, I have died many times. I have actually beaten Jesus Christ because he only died once. Right. We're no longer going to ask for the land, but we are going to take it without negotiation or negotiating. again, we of Africa protest that in this day and age we should continue to be treated as lesser human beings than other races. Okay, so this is really deep. The white man is not indigenous to Africa. Africa is for Africans. Zimbabwe is for Zimbabweans. So I like the first statement. Okay, better than Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans. Right. So Africa for Africans. Okay, this is my stance. Okay. So our small and peaceful country is threatened daily by covetous and bigoted big powers whose hunger for domination and control of other nations and their resources knows no bounds. Okay, so it's basically speaking against white supremacy there, which we openly know as white supremacy. So our party must continue to strike fear in the heart of the white man, our real enemy. Okay, I don't disagree with that. Okay, okay. We call it a spade and a shovel. Okay, we are not until whites come out to say they are friends to Africans. Okay, they'll forever be seen as enemies. Okay, right. We are not hungry. Why foist this food upon us? Okay, we don't want to be choked. We have enough. Okay, I mean, Africa has a lot of food. Okay, so the nonsense of Africa has no food, I mean, doesn't go with me at all, right? There are things one must do for oneself. Okay, we pride ourselves as being top, really, on the African ladder. We feel that we have actually been advancing rather than going backwards. So yeah, I agree with that. Okay, I agree with that, except for xenophobia. Okay, xenophobia makes us look like we're going backwards, but besides xenophobia, I think Africa is going forwards. Okay, Mugabe has other quotes. Okay, that did not make it here. But actually, one of my favorite quotes, okay, of Mugabe is that he said that the only white man you can trust is a dead white man. All right, so I'll end with that with Black Power. Okay, the only white man you can trust is a dead white man. All right, and it's not far from the truth. Okay, it's not far from the truth. All right, family, let me know what you think about that last quote. All right. So Mugabe was very, very smart. He was very, very intelligent, but it is really sad that things turn out that way. But let us not, blame Mugabe for it. Okay, it was sanctions placed on Zimbabwe for choosing independence, for choosing to reject white supremacy. Okay, so sanctions were placed on Zimbabwe, and we see what's happening in Venezuela. Okay, in before our very eyes. Okay, United States is staging coup d'etats in Venezuela and trying to put in puppet leaders. Okay, before our very eyes. Okay, we're seeing what's happening. So let us not see things through the eyes of the Europeans. Okay, let us see through things through the eyes of the African. Let us have our own narrative. Okay, so Mugabe has to go down as one of the greatest leaders of Africa. For me, Mugabe goes down as one of the greatest four leaders of Africa because he gained independence for Zimbabweans. He championed Pan-Africanism, and that is the spirit. Okay, that is a warrior spirit. Okay, so he died a warrior, and that is what I respect the most. All right, family. I will come back in a few minutes. I actually want to talk more about the xenophobic attacks. Okay, I want to really understand. Okay, this time I'm going to try and bring some people in. Okay, let us really just really decide. Let's have a look at it. Even Watermeyer has made a video saying that it's not xenophobia, but that's a lie. That is xenophobia. Okay, call a spade and a shovel. And I left a comment on Watermeyer's channel. Okay, that let's face the fact. Okay, it is xenophobia. Okay, with self-hate is in there. Okay, in xenophobia. Okay, self-hate is in there as well because it's only okay only self-hate which would lead to the African attacking his own. Okay, when you see videos of Europeans attacking Africans, they do not attack themselves about it. Okay, so it's got to be self-hate. Neymar, welcome to the stream. You're a bit late, but I appreciate you coming through. Right, okay, I appreciate you. So I'm gonna come back in a few minutes, and we're gonna talk about xenophobia. Okay, is it really xenophobia or it's self-hate? So which one is it? For me, I think it's xenophobia. Okay, let us not sugarcoat it. Okay, uh, sugarcoat it. Sorry, it is xenophobia. Okay, with self-hate, underline it, or even you know, it is what it is. Okay, so not until we face the reality of it. Okay, it is xenophobia, and also I'm saying that. Okay, because Africa still maintains countries that were created by Europeans. Okay, so until we have our own system of governance as Africans, okay, we are living in the paradigm of the European. Okay, so these are countries created by Europeans. So therefore, the African is a foreigner in his own land. Okay, so it is what it is. Okay, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. So thank you all for joining the stream. Okay, may Mugabe rest in power. Okay, may he rest in power, and all praises to the ancestors. I hope he sends a message to the ancestors to come and help us gain our fighting spirit back. Okay, let us gain our warrior spirits back. Okay, this is what we need. Okay, for hundreds, thousands of years, Africa has never bowed down to external enemies. Okay, we never did that. So I don't see why into 2019 we're still bowing down to Europeans. All right, family. Uh, blessings to the people of Zimbabwe. Okay, my condolences to the family of Robert Mugabe and the people of Zimbabwe. I hope the entire continent of Africa unite on this note. All right, so peace to Africa, peace to South Africa, one love, one Africa. Okay, Pan Africanism all the way. Okay, Pan Africanism all the way. Peace, family. Peace, peace, and join me in the next stream, please. Peace, peace.